Page 26, Greensleeves. Take a look at the key signature. You think, okay, that's F major. Well, let's just look at it. Look at the last chord, right at the last, at the bottom of page 27, the last measure. You have this. Sounds like D major, doesn't it? Well, no, not with one flat. It's not D major. D major has two sharps. What's going on? Well, surprise, surprise. If you kind of play through it a little bit, you can hear it's in minor, all right? So it's not going to be F major. That means it's got to be D minor because it's the only other choice. It's either F major or D minor. Take your pick because it's got one flat. And that's it. That's the only keys you get with one flat. So I'm going to say, okay, it's in D minor. So why is it ending here at the end? Because a lot of times a piece that's written in a minor key will end on the major chord. So instead of a D minor, they ended on a D major chord. They do that a lot. They did that way back in the 1700s and before. They've been doing it all along. You have to watch them when it's a minor. They throw you at the end. They're ending on a bright theme, a bright note. It's okay, you're going to lift their spirits just a little bit at the end. And that gives me an excuse to talk about what's going on. Start with the right hand. Let's go over this. No big deal. Use the fingering they're showing you. So next to the last measure of the first line, there on page 26, move the index finger down to the E. Now they're showing third finger on the last measure. Their third finger on the D. I disagree. I would leave it, just play the fingers that are on the keys. So I'd use second finger, and then on the first measure, the second line, fourth finger on the half note, and then for the two D's coming up, I'd do a 2-3. See, and that puts me in the position they've been in, but I like my position better. The end of the second line, using the thumb on the half note A, you're going to bring the thumb up and play it on the D. It's between phrases, so this works out well. Gives us that silence we're looking for. On the third line down, last two measures, it's a half note G. Bring the index down, thumb, and again, third finger. And this time I agree, use third finger on that eighth note. Because we don't have repeated notes on this. Now in the last line, second measure, C sharp, B natural. And even though it's obvious, I'm going to tell you anyway, for the last two measures on page 26 in the right hand, that's not tied. You play both of those D's in the right hand. And don't forget the quarter rest. We want to hear the rest. So, page 27, at the top, you're up here. Second measure is a B natural. Now, look at the last two measures of the first line. It's second finger on the G, thumb, then cross over, put the second finger on the C. That's okay. Now, on page 27 and the second line, first two measures, you're going to play the F with a little finger. I recommend the next D with the second finger. Just scrunch your hand up a little bit. And then the next measure, play that D with the third finger. Again, I'm just doing the two Ds with two different fingers is all. Again, a quarter rest at the end of the second line. It's important. We need to hear it. Third line is like the first line on page 27. Then the last line, you're going to start out with the little finger on the F. Okay, and it works out very well on the right hand. Now, the last two measures in the right hand on page 27 at the bottom there, those D's are not tied. You play them both in the right hand. Okay, left hand, you got these chords. Just three 5, 3, 1 on each one, you're going down. You don't want a lot of silence between the chords, but you're going to get a little bit. You got to. It's the way the instrument is. Now, when you get to the bottom, on page 26, the last line, I recommend for that first measure that you do a 4, 2, 1 on that chord rather than a 5, 3, 1. So you're coming from here to here. And the reason is because you got an A on the next measure, and if you finger the chord this way, you can do the A with a little finger easily. It's up to you, because if you do it this way, you can slide off if you want. Or not, whichever. That's just a little variety. Page 27, you got chords again, except now they're broken chords, one note at a time. Going between the second and third measure at the top of page 26, you're ending on a C. Going to a C, an octave lower, just spread your hand out. So it's here. As you move around in the left hand here, you can connect these much better because they're not blocked chords. All right, your hand can contract and expand as it needs to get these. So when I go from the first line to the second line on page 27, it's here to here. I'm going to do that. And then we have a quarter rest at the end of the second line. We need to hear it. You've got to move your hand up anyway. Last line on page 27 for the left hand is here. I recommend a 4 on the next to the last measure. We have two voices going here. The notes with the stem going down is the bottom voice, and the notes with the stem going up is the upper voice on the left hand. So the bottom voice is just playing the D, and I recommend fourth finger on it. It's tied. You're not going to play that D again. You're going to hold it down. And while you're holding it down, now you're going to play the others, and I recommend a 1 on the G, a 2 on the E, and a 3 on the F sharp is what I recommend. I like that fingering better than what they're doing. I think it's a little less awkward. If you do theirs, it's kind of fun, but I think this is easier. The trick is holding down the D. And while we're talking about holding down the D, because it's tied, remember I said the right hand is not tied? Play the right hand in the last measure, you're going to play that D with the F sharp in the left hand. But you're holding down the D in the left hand. Well, look at the last two measures on page 26. You got this. I'm going to play the right hand D for the last measure, but I'm holding down the left hand. It's tied. See, so you got to watch these things. The tendency is you want to tie both hands. Don't play either one. Or you want to play both hands. And no. Left hand is tied, the right hand is not. Let's try this out. 3/4 time with a pickup beat. I'll give us 2 counts. Let's start. Now the piece itself is slow. It's not a fast piece. Okay, you can experiment with that. But we're going to go slower than that. Just for safety's sake, I'm going to give us a full 3 counts plus 2, or 5 counts total, so it'll be like a 1, 2, 3, ready, go type thing. So here we go. Hands in where they go. There's no pedal, don't need it. Ready, go.